everybody. Welcome to Tony's Time here at DocSports.com. The COVID-19 update here as we approach the 1st of May. And my guest needs no introduction here, Doug Upstone from DocSports.com. And Doug, first of all, how you doing? How you riding out the storm here, buddy? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. I think I said last time, for many of us that are in this business, being home is not a big deal. So in terms of radical changes, but like everybody, wouldn't mind, going out, sitting in a restaurant, sitting at a bar, having a couple of beers, stuff like that. But otherwise, we're doing all right.
Well, that's good. Hope everybody out there watching is safe and sound, and your family and circle is good. And of course, there's been some obvious bright lights at the end of the tunnel here in the sporting world in the last week. And we can talk about NASCAR starting out. Be sure and check out the J.J. Yaley interview. Not too many handicapping companies out there interviewing active Monster Cup drivers right now. So be sure and check that out. And UFC, obviously, May 9th, and Major League Baseball in discussions. And, of course, the NFL draft captured 15 million viewers on ESPN and ABC combined. So people are starved for sports. So let's give you a little bit of NFL. And, of course, you'll notice the swag. Let me get that up there for you. You'll notice the swag. You'll notice a little bit more swag, which means only one thing. We're discussing NFL draft, and we're discussing the AFC. And kind of Doug Upstone's top and bottom when it comes to the draft in the AFC. And be sure and tune in Friday, or if you're watching this later on, the other archive, Tony's Time, on the NFC, which we'll break down for you tomorrow. But Doug, obviously, one thing that did surprise me in this draft, the most important commodities that I know of in the NFL are quarterbacks and wide receivers. Running backs, not so much anymore. And as you know, there wasn't a running back taken till the last pick of the first round. Kansas City Chiefs got a good one there out of LSU. But that being said, 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round. And obviously, one of the biggest pick in the draft was an AFC team with Burrows going up there to Cincinnati. And as we tape this today, they've cut loose Andy Dalton. So it's goodbye, no backup role, no nothing, get down the road. But your observations in terms of the AFC, who do you think really knocked it out of the park there? Maybe a few top teams.
Yeah, well, everybody, views this differently. And I combined how I look at it was I combine sometimes when they make trades and do different things. So I kind of put that whole thing together that way in terms of making it a package. And before I go any further, by the way, very sharp outfit today. Stunning, my man. You're all set. Now the team I liked, first of all, was Buffalo. I liked what they did. I liked that they traded for Stephon Diggs because that gave Josh Allen another receiver and, by all accounts, a very good one. The other thing I like that they did, in free agency, they lost Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson on defense, but they went out and they added Mario Addison through free agency. And then they got AJ. This is a tough one for me. AJ Epinesa. There we go. I got it. Okay. As a draft pick from Iowa, not a super athletic guy, but always around the ball. And then adding in Zach Moss at running back gives them some nice versatility. Yeah. I think they did an excellent job and firmly believe they're going to be breathing down the necks of the New England Patriots.
I don't think they're going to be breathing down the neck as maybe New England will be breathing down theirs. I think Buffalo at plus 130 in the AFC East to win that division is a damn good bet. One thing about the NFL, I'm going to interrupt our flow here. I honestly think there'll be a 16-game season this year, and I honestly think they're probably going to start very close to on time. So now with these draft picks in, folks, we're going to have a lot of future shows down the road, just so you know. Because we got the draft in, and you have to mix in not only the draft, but as Doug alluded to, the free agency aspect of it as well. The only thing that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit here, and I think Josh Allen is going to be a great quarterback for them. Um, he's one of those guys that doesn't look pretty doing it, but it gets down to crunch time. He makes the plays that gets them in the position to win games. I think they're extremely well coached, Doug. But the one head scratcher I had was them picking up Fromm out of Georgia at quarterback. That just seemed like a wasted pick to me.
I certainly can't disagree with you there. It was like he's just there, so you might as well take him. I mean, from I think he's certainly better than what he played last year. I don't know that he's gotten a lot better from his redshirt freshman year, but I can't fault him 100%. I mean, everybody's got to do what they think is best. I like you though. Either way, didn't matter much.
A lot of people are giving a high grade to the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC for the draft this year. Picked up Patrick Queen, linebacker, good player. I'm surprised he was still around when they got the pick. I also thought that J.K. Dobbins is a great running back out of Ohio State. He has trouble catching the ball a little bit, but this is the NFL. If you don't catch the ball, you're not going to play running back in the NFL. This is not the old hand it off twice and then throw on third down league that it was back in the 60s and 70s. But nonetheless, a lot of high grades for Baltimore.
Yeah, and I have them number 2 on my list.
Oh.
I mean, I agree. I mean, what a great replacement for C.J. Mosley at linebacker by picking up Queen. And then the thing that I like about Dobbins, I mean, I really like Dobbins in general, but here's the thing. You run that speed option with Dobbins and Lamar Jackson. Are you kidding me? If you're on defense, who are you gonna go to? I mean, boy, you get either guy out on the edge, or if you can fake it outside and then send Dobbins right up the gut, the A gaps. I mean, he's going 60 yards every time that happens. I mean, I'm a big Dobbins guy. I thought that was a great draft by them.
Yeah, and Duvernay at wide receiver, and then Proche at wide receiver. Well, Proche might be a nice little sleeper pick for him. Good player, a lot of speed in both those wide receivers, giving Lamar Jackson some more options and more depth at the wide out. I thought they did a nice job picking up a nice defensive tackle as well. They picked up Malik Harrison, too, at linebacker for more depth at linebacker. Another good linebacker. Not as good as Queen, but a damn good linebacker. And they addressed some issues with Broderick Washington on the defensive line as well. I thought they had a great draft, and they're a good football team. They're going to be right up there in the hunt. They're second or third or fourth to win it all this year when it comes to the odds. And they added a lot of depth. One thing I caution people on when you start saying, "Well, we're going to give Buffalo an A+, we're going to give." On a scale A to F when you're grading these teams, and we're going to give these guys an A and the next guy an A-. Bear in mind, although some of these players in the draft are impact players, and they're adding depth, most of these players outside of the top pick are developmental guys. Maybe an occasional second-round pick where you pick somebody up that was like a Dobbins. He's going to see action. But bear in mind, blending these in with the free agency picks, but don't bank on a team's future solely based on a grade in the draft, because they're still 21-year-old players. Another team, let's talk about them. Everybody's talking about them, Doug. I saw a lot of A+ ratings on the Cincinnati Bengals, and I will tell you that Zach Taylor, is a better coach than what their record was last year. I've been familiar with this kid since he played football at Nebraska under Bill Callahan. He's been a great offensive coordinator, a good play caller. He was handed a giant flaming turd, and then Green got hurt, their main playmaker. But they're going all in on Joe Burrow. I thought T. Higgins was a great pickup, the kid out of Clemson, right? Correct. Wide receiver. Logan Wilson, good quarterback. Or a good linebacker, along with Davis Gaither as well at linebacker. A lot of people really high on the Cincinnati Bengals in the draft right now, Doug.
Yeah, in Cincinnati, again, like I said at the top, is I'm looking more for teams that are, let's just say, playoff eligible. And Cincinnati, to your point, I mean, they're certainly not going to be playoff eligible, this year. And they had all high draft picks. they accomplished what they needed to for this year. But this is still not going to be a particularly good football team for a year or two. So I'd say in terms of grading, yes, I agree. They did well. And quite honestly, though, they should have done well based on where they picked. So I'm not all in with Cincinnati did this fantastic job. Now, if they did a really poor job, that's another matter. But good for them, happy for them. But I'm not going to rate them that highly because we're talking 2 or 3 years down the road. Then we can look back and say, hey, Bengals, nice work.
We're talking to Doug Upstone from DocSports.com. Find Doug daily. He's doing how's the horse handicap? I know you've been doing the ponies. I know
Yes.
Last time I talked to you, you were doing pretty damn good. Is the consistency remaining with the ponies?
Well, as you might imagine, horse racing has its ups and downs. So yes, when we spoke, things were going well. They went a little bit south, but now as I did this video, won the last 2 days, made a couple alterations. So hopefully get back on the right track, and things are going well though. Otherwise, it's an ongoing learning experience, as we know, anything to do with betting, and this is all part of it as well.
Yeah, well, be sure and get over to DocSports.com. I know Rafael Esparge is over there as well, one of the best horse handicappers in the country. We got a free $60 waiting for you over at Docs when you click that link in the description below. And you can park that in your account, get ready for some NBA playoffs here in the near future, get ready for some Major League Baseball, NASCAR. Folks, if you're hungry to bet and you're not a fan of NASCAR, you better be. Because I was the #1 guy over at Docs last year, one of the top guys in the country, and we were kicking ass and taking names before the COVID hit us. And I'll tell you what, they're firing up here on the 17th at Darlington. And they're going to be running 2 races a week. 2 of them, folks. They're going to go full 36 race schedule this year. They've already got 4 races out of the way. They're going to run 32 races and complete the schedule, according to my good friend J.J. Yaley, who just texted me here the other day. And, of course, we have the Tony's Time show with him. So utilize that free $60. Get ready to make some money. We got UFC coming up. And a show, by the way, with Matt Holt. Former 8-year chief operating officer of Cantor Gaming and CG Technology out here in Las Vegas, breaking down UFC 249 next Tuesday, 12-fight card, so be sure and tune in for that. Doug, you've got to have a third-place team in your rankings here in the AFC. Who might that be?
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns, okay? I like the fact that when they picked
No more
up...
hype on the Browns. Are we doing more preseason heap on the preseason hype on the Browns in 2020 like everybody was in 2019?
Well, of course. Look, there's one difference though. They're better. They got an offensive line now. They got a right tackle in Jay Conklin, who they got free agency. Yeah. They drafted Wills, okay? Jedrick Wills Jr. He's going to be a stud, and they got a legitimate tight end in Austin Hooper, who they picked up in free agency from Atlanta, and the second best safety in the draft, as we keep mentioning LSU players, but he was the second best safety, and he might turn into the best one actually. And Grant Delpit, I think Cleveland made a number of nice moves. I think they actually have a legitimate head coach, and I think they are going to be on the rise this year.
They're loaded. We'll see. Last year, their biggest problem was their head coach, and that problem's been eliminated. And now we got this guy coming in from Minnesota that's highly touted. He's got a lot of weaponry to work with. We're going to find out now if there's going to be any more excuses left for Baker Mayfield. I'll tell you what right now. You've seen flashes of greatness with him. You've seen also flashes of indecision and frustration and lack of leadership. We'll see if the coaching change will help him somewhat and some of the weapons he has around him, because offensively, they are friggin' loaded. I will tell you that right now. And defensively, we already know they can play. I mean, this team should challenge Baltimore for that division. and I'm going to piss off a lot of Steelers fans who are on the screen behind me right now playing a game. But I'll tell you what, right now, it's do or die this year for Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, because you've got a couple of years under your belt. You've got a lot of weapons. You've got expert coaching now, an offensive-minded coach. So that's going to be real interesting, Doug. One team I wanted to talk about real quick with you and just get your thoughts on was a team that I think is going to be a good team this year, barring they get the quarterback play. But your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts?
Tony, it's like you're reading my mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, what are your thoughts? Because I'm big on these guys.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not big on is Phillip Rivers myself. I think Phillip Rivers is on the decline, but with as good as their offensive line is, with as good as their running game is, I think some of those things can be overcome. They picked up DeForest Buckner in a trade with San Francisco, so I think that was a big positive. And then offensively, Michael Pittman as a out of USC is going, I believe, be a really solid number 2 wide receiver, which is something they definitely need. And they got a steal, I think, in Jonathan Taylor at running back out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
This guy has great speed, has some moves. The reason he fell as far as he did, too many fumbles, but that is a correctable thing, I believe. And I think the Indianapolis Colts are definitely going to be on the rise as long as they don't have to depend on Phillip Rivers.
I don't think they will. This is why I like the Colts, and they're 28-1 to win the Super Bowl, and they're 13-1 to win the AFC. And to give you some indication that that's like there's like 5 teams at 13-1, including the Bills. You've obviously got the Patriots, the Chiefs, and Ravens in front of everybody else there. But this is a team. The 1-2 punch at running back, Marlon Mack, mark my words, folks, is one of the best running backs in the NFL. This kid can flat out ball. He was injured most of the season last year, but when Indianapolis was just kicking ass and taking names at the beginning of the season, I know why? They had a balanced attack, and Marlon Mack is a threat every time he touches the ball. And now backed up by Taylor, one of the best running backs in the history of the University of Wisconsin, and by God, they put out some good ones over the years there. And Phillip Rivers, say what you want to say. He's got an arm. He does put it up for grabs. He's experienced. They picked up Jacob Eason, the kid out of Washington. Now, headed into the last football season, Jacob Eason was 1 or 2 on the draft board before the season started, Doug. College football last year, and he slipped. Burrow had a good year. Eason had some problems. Washington University had some problems during the season with various issues and play calling. But Eason is there. Pittman is a great. You got T.Y. Hilton there. You got Paris Campbell. You got 2 great tight ends. And bear in mind, this is why Phillip Rivers doesn't scare me. The Colts have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. And I
no
think
question.
That's
I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying, and the defense is going to be improved also.
Yeah.
So that makes that division very, very competitive.
Yeah, they drafted Jordan Elliott and Delpit as well, as you mentioned. This defense was ranked 16th in the NFL last year. And I think it's going to be more improved. And I think this offense, if they get any consistency out of quarterback, and remember last year that Jacoby Brissett was hurt, and they were plugging in guys left and right trying to make it happen. But when he went down and then when he came back, they just weren't the same team for whatever reason. Doug, let's quickly talk about maybe some of the bottom feeders. Who got the F? Who got the F in the draft in the AFC?
You mean like the grades we used to get? Is that what you're talking about?
Okay,
all right.
F, maybe incomplete, F, no show.
Right, any of the above. I agree with you exactly. Well, my least favorite team, I'll give it F to the Los Angeles Chargers. Starting off with, I guess they felt compelled to take Justin Herbert from Oregon because they only had Tyrod Taylor, but there were other options for them. to do that. So I'm not really sure why they did that. It didn't do much for me. They did not pick up a left tackle, which they sorely needed. They did pick up Joshua Kelly as a running back, but he's not on any high on many people's list. And Kenneth Murray, again, there's redundancy here at running back. I was not impressed at all. The only thing I could think of, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead of this, is that if Herbert is a complete bust, the Chargers could next year trade up to get Trevor Lawrence, move him out, just like what the Arizona Cardinals did with Rosen, ship him out, get him out of here. If he doesn't look like he's got it, move on. Okay, they didn't used to do that in the NFL, but I think that that's possibly a thing now that can happen.
Well, this is always one thing that I will grade. The biggest deduction for me by far comes from not addressing one of the league's worst offensive tackle situations for a rookie quarterback. I mean, that does not make sense to me. And obviously, I'm not smart enough to be director of player personnel in the NFL, but I've been handicapping football for 28 years, and I've seen this scenario before. A team with a wrecked offensive line or, missing key components of it, and then you throw in a rookie quarterback behind that, good way to ruin them right out of the gate, and good way to have a real shitty year. So I expect the Chargers to be the bottom feeder, obviously in the AFC West. Speaking of, let's switch gears to Las Vegas. A lot of people thought that John Gruden did not do a very good job in the draft this year. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, put me on the list. That was my let's see here. I don't know if F plus or D minus. You can pick whichever one you like. I don't think they did a particularly good job either. And even though there's a lot of detractors of Henry Ruggs III, I'm not one of those, because you got a guy with that kind of blazing speed. If he catches 50 balls, there's a good chance he's going to have 12 touchdowns. I don't have a problem with that. But they took 3 wide receivers in their first 5 picks. Their defense last year was 19th. They picked up a corner from Ohio State in Arnett, they took him way too soon at 19.
Yeah.
And then they also took Tanner Muse way too early. They didn't address any of their issues on defense. Offensively, they could potentially be better with more speed, but I don't think they helped themselves enough to matter. I think Vegas just blew it.
Yeah, for one reason or another, they're trying to. It was like Al Davis, ghost was hovering around the trade room or the draft room there because, he always drafted speed, and Kansas City in that division has a ton of speed everywhere on their team, including Kansas City drafting a lot of speedsters in the defensive secondary this year, and a great running back who has a ton of speed and is a good north and south runner as well, and can catch the football to make them more potent offensively than they already were. And John Gruden trying to play catch up with speed. Well, speed doesn't necessarily equal talent or need, and I didn't see a lot of their big needs fulfilled there. And in my opinion, Carr's still an iffy quarterback for them as well. Just my thoughts on the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm glad we're in shutdown here in Las Vegas, because if I go out in public and anybody watches this, I'm probably going to get my head knocked in between my shoulders, because there's a lot of avid Raider fans already in Las Vegas before they're even moving here. By the way, the stadium looks beautiful over there on I-15 right across from Mandalay Bay, folks. It's really coming together nicely. I hope they get to use it. One more pick that, well, maybe a team that surprised you, good, bad, or indifferent, Doug, that with the draft this year.
Yeah, the one thing with Pittsburgh I thought was a little bit unusual. Now, I won't go super hard on it because they traded away some picks to get Minka Fitzgerald last year, their safety, and this guy's a complete stud. So, I mean, didn't have as much they did not have a number 1 pick. Chase Claypool from Notre Dame was their first pick. He's got a great catch radius, but he was inconsistent at Notre Dame. I could see maybe where he worked out as a slot receiver or as a red zone receiver, but he's not super talented. A lot of people weren't high on Alex Hightower either to fit into their 3-4 defense coming out of Charlotte. I think a maybe on that one. And I was, and then just to largely cover the other two areas, not thrilled with what Tennessee did, and I thought New England was also rather uninspired.
Yeah, a lot of people high on the Dallas Cowboys. Now everybody's always high on the Cowboys, even when they shouldn't be, for any reason whatsoever. A lot of Cowboy fans out there. I thought maybe this may have been one of Jones's best drafts in a while. I thought CeeDee Lamb was a steal. I think Trevin Diggs is a good player. They addressed every need that they had, and I thought they did a nice job. Maybe Jerry Jones should be sitting on a yacht every time they have a draft.
That's a good point. Now I'll save that for our show. My thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys. But I do have a question for you. So what do you think is worse, the Raiders draft this year or Mark Davis's haircut?
Still Davis's haircut. I've seen him in person.
Okay. I agree with you on that, by the way. But I just thought I'd throw that out there for the viewers as well.
Well, that Dallas comment was a little bit of a teaser for tomorrow's show, folks. We're going to be talking about the NFC. That's why Doug avoided that question. But I'm giving you a teaser for the NFC tomorrow because there's some really interesting things that went down in the NFC. A lot of people, though, to kind of counter back at you, there were a lot of sports writers and analysts that loved Tennessee's draft this year. I'm just playing devil's advocate because I'm kind of on the side with you. The one thing about the Tennessee draft that impressed me was that during the live draft at the head coach's house, there was a guy sitting on the toilet taking a deuce with the door open, and you could see him in the dining room mirror. So, I thought Vrabel was having quite a little bit of explaining to do on that, or needed somebody to kind of oversee what was going on in the Vrabel household as the draft was unfolding for them. But I didn't see, obviously, anytime you can get a good offensive tackle in the draft, Isaiah Wilson, I think, is a pretty good one. Other than that, I thought every one of their picks were just average to subpar at best. But there's a lot of people giving them A and A pluses, and I don't see it.
Yeah, I see it. And Wilson, this was a great draft for offensive tackles, and Wilson was not, very few people, including myself, had him going early, and especially in the first round, a second round pick. So I wasn't that crazy. Their running back they picked up in Evans. Yeah, he's a nice change of pace for Derrick Henry. I'm not going to disagree with there, but he's, there's nothing about him that's, that stands out to where you say, this is a guy you got to have. I just think it was just okay. It, like I say, basically uninspired and not crazy about it either. And speaking, you mentioned about the video. Did you see the thing on Twitter about Eason from Washington? They had a live shot of him. He wasn't drafted, of course, early. And so then they show him coming out of what appears to be a room outside where their living room was. And he is shirtless and he's putting on a shirt. And directly behind him was his girlfriend, who was kind of, let's just say, smoothing out what she was wearing. So it left a lot to the imagination what might have just occurred while he was waiting to get drafted.
A little pregame activity.
Exactly.
Okay, I got that. I got easing the pain, easing the stress, taking away a little tension. Good for him. Yeah. Matter of fact, that draft pick, the stock on him just went up, in my opinion. Sounds like a guy I could hang out with. That's for sure. Quickly, one of my top-rated teams here, and then we're going to let everybody go and be sure and tune back in. Myself, Doug Upstone, from DocSports.com. Tomorrow for the NFC, don't forget, over at Docs, we got guys putting out horse picks. We've got all kinds of fresh information coming in there. We're going to be starting to roll with the UFC next week. And, of course, NASCAR around the corner, Major League Baseball, putting together a plan, NDA, organizing practice facilities. So be sure and get over there, get yourself hooked up, take advantage of a free $60 we'll give you. As always, if you've never been a member at Docs, I'm sure we'll have some interesting specials for you. Post-COVID-19, opening things back up, we'll make it easy on the wallet and help you make it a little bit fatter as well. But my team I really liked this year in the draft quickly was the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought they drafted very well. I really do. They're going to go with Minshew Magic this year. Got rid of that money that they were paying Foles. He's up there trying to convince them that he's a better quarterback than Trubisky in Chicago, which shouldn't take a whole lot of convincing, but we'll see how that pans out. But I thought C.J. Henderson, I thought Jason, I thought Chenault Jr., Hamilton, Josiah Scott is a great cornerback that nobody knows about. They picked up Quarterman as a linebacker. They just took advantage of impressive volume, Doug, with a little bit of everything. Henderson, Jason, Hamilton, all three can have big impacts right out of the gate. And this is a Jaguars defense that was at least above average before this. A couple of years ago, they were unbelievable. But don't sleep on Thomas getting the start at some point this season. A guy they picked up, I think that's going to be a really good player as well. At safety, Daniel Thomas. I thought getting Colin Johnson at wide receiver, this is a guy that can make the squad. I tell you, I just thought that they overall addressed about every single position on their team. They had a lot of draft picks, and I thought they drafted extremely well.
I'll agree with you that they drafted well. Here's my question though: is even if all these guys work out, are they an 8-8 team? And if they're not, that means that there's going to be a new head coach there next year. There probably should have been this year, but for sure there'll be one next year. So then you have to recalibrate everything they just did because there's going to be a new sheriff in town calling the shots. So that's why I personally wasn't that. I mean, I agree with the conceptual aspect of what they put together. I just don't know how it's going to result for them in terms of results on the field.
If they don't have 6 wins by the 12th game of the season, they'll fire their coach in season. That's exactly what I think is going to happen if that scenario occurs. This is a talent-rich team. This is a talent-rich team, folks. If you look at their roster, it's talent-rich, and a lot of these players in this draft that fit, Malarkey's grand scheme of things in his mind. If he can implement this and coach them right, this should be a team that would be a very tough out and an 8 or 9 win team. If that doesn't occur, as Doug alluded to, now, if you're a Jaguars fan, look forward to having a new coach next year and an interim coach sometime during the season, I might add. He's Doug Upstone. I'm Tony George. Leave us your thoughts down in the comments section here, and I will address those thoughts. If you had some teams that you liked that we didn't mention, we kind of mentioned the top and the bottom ones. We'll do the same tomorrow in the NFC. For Doug Upstone, I'm Tony George. Thanks for tuning in. Get over to Docs. Get your free $60. Bet the ponies with Doug Upstone. I know I do. So be sure and tune in tomorrow for the NFC.